Hi, I'm Craig Bell.
And I'm John Perkins.
My grandmother told us a story before she died of how she went to hear Elvis Presley before he became big. And he was singing in a restaurant, sat down at their table.
Really?
And said, after the singing, said, well, he said, I don't really think I have what it takes to make it. Of course, we know he did.
Yeah.
You ever met anybody famous, John?
I've met Mike Pence.
Oh, really?
Actually ate breakfast with him.
Well.
We voted at the same place, and he had a big breakfast when he was running for governor of the state of Indiana.
Wow, pretty neat. Wonder what it would be like to hang out with Jesus if we could hang out with him for a little bit.
That'd be cool.
We'll talk about that on Take 5.
Good for the soul, helping you to thrive. 5 minutes to renew your mind. Take 5.
The Bible calls Jesus' people by different things. For example, twice in the scripture, it calls them believers. 230 times it calls them brethren. 2 times, actually, it calls them Christian, which that's not a very popular biblical term. That's more of a modern term. But 61 times it calls them saints.
Really?
But 234 times he calls them disciples.
Huh.
Disciples. In Matthew chapter 4, Jesus was calling his disciples together. It says in verse 18, as he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. John, if you could hang with Jesus, he'd have to teach you a few things. The first thing that he taught these disciples was that they had to follow if they were going to hang with him.
Yes. How important that is to follow Christ, not to follow maybe a doctrine, but to follow him.
Oh,
That's what Jesus told him, follow me.
Yes. We're bombarded by many voices today in our society. But John 10:27 says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. The voice of Christ that we follow as Christians, as believers, as disciples. We're following after Jesus. That's what they had to do in that day. Luke 14:27, whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. John 12:26, if any man serve me, let him follow me, he says. There's a story of a woman driving through Oregon, a snowstorm one day, John. She became frightened because she couldn't hardly see. But just in the nick of time, she looked ahead and she saw the lights of a snowplow. And she thought, oh, thank God. And she began to follow this snowplow very close. Sometimes the snow almost cut it off from view, but she kept right on the tail of that snowplow. Finally, the snowplow stopped and the driver came back to her and said, ma'am, can I help you? She said, I'm just trying to get to Oregon. I'm following you. He says, well, ma'am, you'll never get there following me until I get done plowing the Walmart parking lot.
Following the wrong.
Be careful who you're following, right?
Yeah.
If we're not careful, we can wind up following the wrong voice in life. Jesus said, follow me, follow me. But they didn't have to just follow. They had to forsake. It says there that they left their nets to follow him. Following Jesus requires you got to leave some things, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
We don't hear that preached much because it ain't popular. But there may be some acquaintances you got to leave, some old lifestyles, some old habits, some things you got to lay aside to follow Jesus.
Brother Craig, last time we was in Africa, we went to this village to preach. And when we preached, we kind of gave an altar call, and a lot of people came around to want to be saved, want to be a part of the Christian church. And one of the pastors there, a local pastor there from one of the villages in Africa, he stepped up and he said, to follow Jesus, you have to forsake. And he started naming things that was sinful that the people in that village done. And when they heard that, most of them turned away, walked away. A few of them got saved, but they wasn't willing. They wanted to follow Christ. They wanted to be a part of the church, something exciting, something that was happening there that day. But when they heard they had to forsake their sins, some of them turned away, and a lot of them turned away and went the opposite way where he was.
That's sad. That is so sad. Luke 14:33 says, so likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. And then he goes on and he told those disciples, I'll make you fishers of men. You don't have to be that. I'm going to make you that.
Yeah.
He says, I'm glad that Jesus gives us the power to be what we need to be in our life.
Yes. So are you a disciple of Jesus?